Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrain. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking your full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Today we are talking with Kelly Riggs. Kelly is host of Sales Untraining, the podcast. He is founder and CEO of Business LockerRoom. He's a prolific author. Books like Quit Whining and Start Selling, One-on-One Management, and Counter Mentor Leadership. He is on today, and we're talking about four questions that are impacting sales leaders. Tune in. We're getting started. Kelly Riggs, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Paul. Good to see you, man.
It's great to see you. Truth be told, we've been sitting here talking for about 20 minutes. We probably should be recording the whole thing.
Get around to the podcast
Eventually. What you been up to these days, though?
Very, very, very busy. More of the same, as they say. But as you know, engaged in the world of coaching and training leaders and salespeople. There's always plenty to do, and really, really enjoy it. So life is good. A lot of good things going on.
Well, we're going to do a fun thing today. I have four questions. That's it. Four questions that we're going to go through. They're going to hop all over the place, but they're around coaching salespeople, coaching sales leaders, and just what we got going today.
And full transparency, I have no idea what questions you're going to ask.
You have none. You have none. And so these are questions that I've run into either on LinkedIn or around the world when I'm talking to sales leaders, and it's just, I want your opinion on them.
Okay.
That's about it.
Scary thought, but sure.
All right. So number one.
Yes.
Number one. So in your experience, what is the biggest lie that sales managers tell themselves about coaching and spending one-on-one time with their people? And the add-on is, and how do you help them break that cycle?
Wow. Okay. So this is a huge question, lot to unpack. But if you want to bring it down to that singular sort of excuse that people consistently tell themselves, that one's pretty simple. I call it the four most dangerous words in any sales leader's vocabulary. And the lie they tell themselves is, yes, I need to do more of fill in the blank, one-on-one coaching, writing with, all of those things, but I don't have time. The four most dangerous words, I think, for any leader, any sales leader in particular, is that you don't have time. They believe in their minds, in their hearts, they believe that all the work that they're doing is so incredibly important. Then they get caught up in the tyranny of the urgent. This has got to be done. I've got to do these meetings and budgets and reports and CRM maintenance and, every other thing in the world. And yes, I know that I should be doing more of this, but Kelly, you don't understand the responsibilities that are put on me by corporate force me to do these other things. And I think that's a major trap. And I think it is a big lie, because leadership at some fundamental level, Paul, is about changing the way you invest your time. And it's going to stink at first to change doing those things and invest in people. And because, you can't be efficient with people. And, we're hardwired to be efficient. If we've moved up into the management role, we were good at it. We could juggle a lot of plates at once. And we think we can continue to do more of that. One of those plates just happens to be developing people, but it never comes down because we're holding too many other plates. And I think it's a huge trap. And I think it prevents a lot of very capable sales managers rather, from being highly effective in the field.
You said something there I want to dig into before the second question, though. The statement was, you can't be efficient with people. There's obviously a lot to unpack there, but tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I think high performers, as a general rule, whether you're talking about regular employees or certainly salespeople, is they learn, or they're good at, what we would call multitasking, which is a myth. I mean, we can't
Mm-hmm.
multitask. What we can do is put a lot of plates in the air and switch tasks between them and do that seamlessly. Now, that creates its own kinds of problems. That's a whole nother discussion for us to have. But because we get good at it as individual contributors, and my only focus is me. So Paul, if my only focus is me, and I have to manage all these things, I get very good at it, and I'm efficient. And I can do things quickly. I can fire off emails, and I can make quick phone calls, and I can follow up with people, and I just get really, really good at the process of being efficient with my time. Well, fast forward, I get promoted into a management role. And what made me great as an individual contributor is actually a big bear trap as a sales leader, because I need to spend time developing my salespeople. And if that's not mission number one for a sales leader, my opinion, you don't know what you're doing. We didn't pay you and promote you to be a bureaucrat. We promoted you to train and teach others to be as good as you are. And we miss that. There's a big disconnect, and yet, and everybody knows it. I mean, it's not like I'm revealing some big secret, Paul. But they go, well, yeah, but what are we going to do? We need a manager. We're not going to promote the guy in the middle or the low guy, so we got to promote our best guy. The problem is two things: they don't prepare them for that new role, and number two, they don't tell them, listen, your responsibilities have changed dramatically. You're no longer an individual contributor. You're a developer. And we're going to pay you as a developer, not as a contributor. So all of that leads me to believe if I was great at being efficient here, I will be great at being efficient here. So when it comes the opportunity to spend time with someone, which by definition is inefficient, taking time, because I'd rather do it like this, right? Then it leads me down a trap. And you just can't be efficient with people. You've got to stop, clear your mind, focus on their needs, the challenges they're facing, and coach them and train them effectively, not efficiently. And many managers, 20 years I've been doing this now, managers will say, yeah, listen, I get it. Okay, if you get it, then what changes are you going to make? Well, Kelly, you don't understand. Well, yeah, I know. I get that a lot.
One last thing, because I think this will be really helpful.
Sure.
What are the changes? Like, what are the recommended changes? Do you have any, like, that you in working with managers that are facing this, just saying, hey, start here? Because I understand I understand the drive to do that, right? And I understand that drive. What are some of the changes, like, with that manager, that you recommend?
Well, I think systemically, a good organization will understand if I'm going to promote someone to sales management, sales leadership, then what I need to do is train them before. I need to assess whether or not they even have the capability of coaching. I mean, we see it in sports all the time, Paul. We were talking sports before we started this dialogue, and you see a lot of great players that they try to become coaches, and they're just not any good at it. And it's because they lack the patience. They don't know how to teach the minutia of the fundamentals. They don't have the time for it. They think everybody should get it like they do. And I see a lot of sales managers with the same problem. I don't understand why you can't do that. I can. Why can't you do it? And that leads you into that issue where if they don't understand the change in role, if they don't know how to do those things, then you've got a problem. So systemically, I would start there. If you're already a sales leader, you've got to spend time with your people. So I've advocated now for 20 years and practiced for almost 40 years as a leader manager, one-on-one meetings that have a very specific template, a very specific structure and approach that enables me to do 10 or 15 things really, really effectively that without them, I can't do well. So that requires me to spend time. If I've got 6 direct reports and I'm doing a 30-minute meeting with my direct reports every week, people look at me like, have you lost your mind? I mean, where am I going to find that time? And my promise to them is always the same. You will get that time back and more. If you invest that time wisely and differently, you'll get it back. There is a return on that invested time. So that's one of the places we start.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I did something that was recommended to me by a mentor for a while. And this was mainly when we were in person. And, I had an office and a bunch of people in that office, and going out to lunch was a standard thing. But that 4 out of 5 days, I would pick somebody and I would buy. Like, it was just an investment. I just take them to lunch. And and so sometimes we'd hold the one-on-one in person, but then we'd hold it there. And I have to say, every dollar that I invested in that lunch,
Yeah.
and this was modeled to me early on. I have if I go out to to lunch with one of my mentors, I'm still not allowed to buy, right? It's just because it was just that, hey,
Sure.
you're
Sure.
investing.
It's
But
a great habit. Great practice.
it was a cool habit on doing that, and it built it in. All right, let's go to number two.
Okay.
Number two. So this is something we've talked about before, and you've also made some posts on it and that type of thing. You said accountability is often missing in sales teams today.
Yes.
Um, so why do so many organizations shy away from real coaching, real accountability, helping people with accountability, and what happens when they get it right?
Well, this is a cascade, right? If you begin with the idea that we don't spend enough time with people, it's going to be very difficult to coach them effectively, which is going to lead to accountability problems almost without exception. And I think the big second bear trap that people walk into is, well, I can hire a Paul Fuller, I can hire fill in the blank superstar sales guy, and I don't have to worry about accountability because he or she is going to be accountable. And there's some truth to that, no question. Some people are more driven, more committed, more motivated, have a greater discipline intrinsically for being good at what they do. But you and I both know there are lots of athletes that have great talent that the coach needs to impute or impose accountability. The reality is although it can appear intrinsically in an individual, accountability is not something that I demand. It's actually a process that I create. And if you create that process effectively, I can assure you, you will have accountability in your sales organization. There's no way around it. Having done this again as an individual for years, and now as a trainer, coach, consultant, whatever you want to call me, for the last 20 years, I've implemented this hundreds of times, and you see it working. But there are two pieces to this. One is you've got to have the sales leader who's willing to create the process, but you also have to have them understand that process and how it works, and be able to execute it. So you can talk about accountability all day, Paul. It's not going to have one impact except on that intrinsically motivated person. So good for you. So I think the sales leader says, I think that the cheat code, the hack for me is to go hire accountable people. Well, good luck with that. How's that working out? Tell me about your current sales team and break them down and tell me how many of them actually exhibit those characteristics. It's typically going to be a fraction.
So systematically setting up a team, a system of accountability, and then
Yes.
how does that help with and diving deeper into this question, how does that help with this idea, though, that accountability is often a bad word? It's often like associated as a bad word in sales teams, or
Absolutely.
culturally unaffected. Well, it. Um, how does that help with that?
Well, it's funny you say that, because there are certain words in business vernacular that make people cringe. They're like, oh, yikes. Accountability is one of those words, because people hear the word accountability and you know what they hear? They hear the word blame. Who gets blamed for this mistake? Oh, you're blaming me, and so forth. The reality is the vast majority of problems with accountability are created by the leader. And leaders don't self-reflect and understand that. So if I see you and you're not doing something that we've talked about, well, it's your fault. I mean, clearly it's your fault. I mean, Kelly, he's supposed to do it. How is it my fault as a leader? And then we go down that path and their eyes start to open up. And I think the way it helps is the explanation of what we're doing and why. There's no sense here in which I want to blame someone What I
Yeah.
want to do, frankly, as a leader is figure out how I can improve what I do so that accountability, which means just owning your results, happens more naturally. And when it doesn't, we understand how to fix it because we can look at the root cause and go, hey, you know what the problem is? Problem's me. So I need to change these things and then we're going to resolve the issue. A lot of employees are more than willing to be accountable. But as leaders, we create an environment, a culture where they're not. And when you don't know the first role that you play in that process, you don't even know how to fix it. So there's an enormous frustration that happens for the leader and for the salesperson. And the only way I know how to deal with that as a leader is to say, Paul, you just need to be more accountable. Okay. You need to fill in the blank. And that is the worst possible coaching imaginable. It's not specific. It's not helpful. And it doesn't help me change any specific behavior.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Have you seen, just in terms of working with organizations, when you go in, you install your system, and I know that's a big part of what you do is being able to do that and
Yes.
help coaches hold themselves and others accountable. What type of results or what type of cultural change do you find?
Well, it's going to scare some people off, I'm sure, but inevitably, I mean, without exception, in 20 years, when you begin to create a culture of excellence and create a culture of accountability, which again is not blame and all that, it just means, hey, my role as a leader, I've got to be way more effective than what I am now. And when I start to do that, you're going to lose people. I mean, a lot of salespeople, truth be told, sales leaders, if you're listening, you've listened to Paul a lot, you're going to recognize this. Not every salesperson is a superstar. And not every salesperson is even a solid B+ player, great culture fit and all that. You've got a lot of salespeople that sort of exist in the gray. They're not great. They're not horrible, but they're never, you're always looking at them going, gosh, I feel like they could do so much more. The minute you start to tighten up what's going on in the sales team and begin to create this process of accountability, your A players start to jump up and down and cheer and go, this is exactly what we're looking for. This is great.
Mhm.
And your people in the gray start to go, yeah, this is a problem. And inevitably, you're going to lose people. I mean, Nick Saban said something, and I've got this clip, and I think it's phenomenal, but he said something that I've never forgotten as a football coach. He goes, you need to understand, A players don't like mediocre people, and mediocre people don't like A players. They have completely different mindsets. So when you create that accountability, your A players really stand up and take notice, and they want to be a part of that kind of culture. Your B- to C players, they start looking for other opportunities. So I think maybe that scares some people off. They're like, okay, why would I want to make my problems worse? I'm already a person down. I'm having problems recruiting somebody. I don't want to lose another 2 or 3 people. And that mindset, that frame of thinking, Paul, absolutely confirms and ensures that you'll never have a great team.
Well, so here, this ties into my question number 3, right? So I have 2 questions, 2 more questions to ask. They're very related to this. So here's the third one. So a lot of CEOs, right? So are hesitant, or sales leaders, CEO, sales leader, are hesitant
Sure.
to part way with a high performer that's toxic, right?
Right.
So we how do you coach leaders through that fear? And what's the real cost of keeping somebody that, maybe they're performing at an A level, but they're not good for the culture? What's the cost of keeping them around?
It's really hard to quantify, but it is significant. I think you could go through the process of looking at numbers and so forth, but here's the final analysis about that employee. Talking to a CEO or a sales leader, VP sales, whatever, when you say these words, it really opens their eyes. And what I tell them is, you have to understand that this individual is holding you hostage. They've got their hands around your throat, threatening you because I'm the top person here and I bring in all the revenue and all that. And I said, there's no other way to put it. They are holding you hostage. And the moment you allow an employee, no matter how good they are, to hold you hostage, you have created a toxic culture which will repel other A players. They may come in, but they're gonna bolt fast, and it's going to create a culture of infighting and dysfunction. And the worst impact actually is not on sales in my experience. It's in operations, because that dysfunctional employee is running roughshod over the operations people, the manufacturing people, the customer service and support people. And, individuals come to the sales leader and say, what are we doing? And they say, listen, I know they're a problem. I got this, but he or she is my top salesperson, and I can't afford to let them go. Well, you can't afford not to let them go, but that is the hardest thing in the world. If you're already struggling to hit numbers and all that, just the prospect of letting somebody like that go makes people's heads explode. But having been down this path more times than I can count, ultimately, when you make that decision, first people line up at the manager's door, the CEO's door, to say, what took you so long? And then people begin to rally. And if you can find the right leader, many times where I've seen it happen is a new leader comes in and says, hey, I got a problem because I got a toxic individual. How should I handle it? Say, okay, let's go through that process. You're going to eliminate them, but you need to build your relationships first. You need to create credibility first. You need to begin to box them in a bit with some of the things that you do. They're going to fight back. They're going to politic. They're going to go tell everybody you're the problem. You just need to be prepared for all that. I mean, that who wants to work in that culture, Paul? Nobody wants to work in that culture.
Amen. Yeah, and it's so much easier when easier might not be the right word, but when that person is performing at a C or C level, right? They're kind of sort of hitting numbers, and you could just stick out like a sore thumb. But when it is that, I have noticed that when it is that high performer or somebody that brings in deals, or has
Yes.
a big past of bringing in deals, and they've brought deals in for years, but that's a difficult decision. So, but I love your approach to it.
Well, I mean, it is a big decision, and I'm not going to do it without going down an entire path of having conversations with that employee and helping them understand their impact on the team and creating opportunities to support them, because we do want their sales. We're just at a crossroads that we can't do this any longer because of the negative impact that it has. And if they, some people will come correct. I mean, they'll go, okay, I get it. And the help and the support you're offering me are things that'll help me make some changes and do that. I mean, it's less than 50% of the time that happens, probably less than 20% of the time. But there are people who turn it around with effective leadership. Somebody who says, okay, this isn't working, but let's talk about why it's happening and what's going on. Many times that high performer's hyper frustrated. They're struggling with operational support, sales support, customer service support, and they've begun to act out, and nobody's helping them. So if you can become the leader that will advocate for them and help them see that you're helping change things, then you can bring them around. But we're talking about the purely dysfunctional, toxic in person that something has to be done with.
Well, let's keep going on these questions. So, because I got my fourth one here,
Okay.
and the fourth one is along the lines. It's around with personnel. Just answer how you answer. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
Oh, great.
But I have some inklings. But so there's what's going on. A lot of sales leaders out there today, and I know you know this because you're working with them, are wrestling with really how to hire and structure teams.
Yes.
Especially in, and I'm going to say the two letters, in the world of AI, right? The question I have for you is, do you envision the fundamentals of choosing and picking the people you want to work with, so sales hiring and team design changing, or are we kind of just dressing up old challenges with new technology?
I'm going to choose answer B, Paul. Listen, tools have changed dramatically. I mean, I've been in sales for way longer than I care to admit. But back in the day, as we old guys say, the tool we had was called a phone book, right? Or we had a couple of different business tools that would give us profiles of
You had a
accounts.
horse and buggy, right?
Yeah, well, eventually, right?
You rode dinosaurs first to
Yeah,
get to
I
your
mean,
yes.
but tools change the game, and they change the game dramatically. The problem is the allure of technology creates a scenario where people feel like I don't have to do the blocking and tackling because I've got a great arm. I can fling it downfield 70 yards. So we'll run the deep play every time, Paul, because man, we got a quarterback that can throw it 70, and I got two guys that are, can run like the wind. So we're just going to fling it. We don't even have to worry about any other aspect of the game. We're just that good. And I see that mindset inside of sales is, social media was going to eliminate all the sales positions. Everything was going to be inbound. Well, that didn't happen. Now it's and every evolution of social media. When we first started, it was just a couple of platforms, and then it was everything. And then it was, throw in all these automated tools that you're fully aware of. And they're just going to eliminate salespeople. Why do we even need them? Because, everybody has way more access to information today. So I already know what I want before you even come into the picture, Mr. Salesperson. I just need somebody to carry my water and take my order and fulfill it. That's all I need, which is just absolutely amazingly, stunningly crazy. Because the more information people have, it actually makes decision making far more complex. And I think the way we define selling matters, because people think that transactions are selling. That's not selling. Is influencing a prospect or customer to buy my solution in the presence of extreme competition, people who can do it perhaps as well as we do it. They have different approaches, different feature sets, different whatever. So I have to convince someone to make a decision in my favor. And you think that's going to happen with no influence, no impact? Then we've taken sales out of the game. If we eliminated all salespeople, period, then we could say, all right, it's all going to be done inbound, and we've got to trust buyers to make the best decision they can based on information. But the minute you introduce a competitor who is a human, they have the capability to stand in front of somebody and reason with them and address their needs and their challenges and make them feel comfortable and build trust and create these long-term relationships that I know my success as a business person is highly impacted by your ability to help me. And now all of a sudden, all those other players have a problem. So now they have to have a salesperson in the game. Salespeople are never going away. On the other hand, the tools that we have, holy cow, AI is amazing, absolutely amazing as a tool.
What's interesting, you said that is, so it's the fundamentals. I think we've ripped the lie off of a lot of those things, and I think the fundamentals are now even more important. The ability to truly serve, lead, and find a way together, right, and do that at a really high level relationally. I think that's coming. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He works at like a Fortune 100 company, but he's like, that is, in the age of AI, that's where we're hinging our ability to outcompete. Like, we need to all train more. We need to all be more human. We need to all understand how to connect more impactfully with others, so we can do that actually well and authentically in this age of when people do have information at their fingertips, but they have zero idea how to really know if that's true and connecting with the truth and is best for them. Right.
Yes.
So I'm finding that fascinating. That we're just going back to the core in many, many ways.
It doesn't depend on what the tool is. It depends on whether or not you're utilizing those tools. The reality is, if you're not leveraging social, if you're not leveraging automated programs, platforms, if you're not leveraging AI, my friend, you are way, way, way behind. You've just given up a huge lead in the race to a competitor. And when you start from way behind, it's very hard to come back and win the race. And that's true with tools. But all things being equal, you and I and two other competitors all use the tools, access the tools, leverage the tools. It's still going to come down to the fundamental ability to create trust in someone who is then willing to extend that trust to you and give you a deal. Mm-hmm. And there's no way around that. In complex B2B sales, I think salespeople are needed more today than they were 20 years ago, not less. Now, if you're talking about transactional selling, listen, I go to the Apple store and get my wife an Apple Watch. Anybody can do that. I walk in, they go, "What model do you want?" And I say, "Well, tell me about them." "Well, this, and is that selling?" "Yeah, at some level, it's helpful. It's more like customer service, inside sales service, that kind of thing." But in complex B2B sales, Paul, you know as well as I do, these are multi-million-dollar decisions, and people need to make the right decision. And to do that, they've really got to come to trust somebody that knows exactly what they're doing.
Amen. Preach, Mr. Riggs. Preach it. No, and that's why I asked, and I'm on the same page. And these 4 questions, like I said, these are stuff that I've been hearing around. And I wanted to pose them to you. So thank you for spending the time and giving some honest and upfront and wise answers. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. As you know, my platform is, I fundamentally believe that the way we train and develop salespeople corporately is flawed. It's flawed dramatically. And that's not because I have some contrarian opinion. You know the numbers as well as I do. When 5 or 6% of all salespeople are elite and 3 out of 4 are roughly failing, not achieving, their numbers on a consistent basis, and one of those 1 out of 4 is a train wreck. I mean, you got to ask yourself, why is that? Is it just because we can't find born salespeople? My answer is no. My answer is fundamentally the way we train salespeople is very flawed. So those questions that you're asking, I think, are great, great questions.
Question 5 was just something you just said that I was going to do a 5-question one.
Uh-oh.
But, it's attaches to that. It's like a lot of sales leaders, just in general, CEOs and sales leaders still believe that great salespeople are born, not empowered and made. And so that's a mindset that is tough. It's a combo of both. It's kind of just like it's an art and a science.
Yep.
But many still fall into that. I think we talked about it early, that trap of, I just need to go hire a great charismatic salesperson. And complex B2B, if you start to hire based on that, you're throwing, I don't know, you're going to a craps table, essentially.
Yeah, 100% you are. I mean, you're going to have some success, perhaps enough that you continue to propagate the myth. But the reality is if selling was all about personality, it would change the game dramatically. But clearly it's not. For example, a lot of buyers, especially in manufacturing and engineering circles, their personality is highly reserved and they're not outgoing, and people with effusive personalities kind of even rub them in the wrong way. I mean, you have to connect to people where they are, and that's where your personality comes into play. High level of emotional intelligence can take a very good salesperson and make them a superstar. But a person with a phenomenal personality without emotional intelligence and or skills is going to be a disaster. And as I tell sales leaders all the time, sometimes the very best sale that a salesperson makes is in the interview, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've held those interviews. Yeah, we've all made that mistake, and you learn the tough way, I think.
Yes.
Hey, how do people get in touch with you, Kelly, if they want to chat a little bit more about any of these concepts or what you're doing out in the world of sales today?
Oh, I appreciate that. A couple of things. If you enjoy Paul's podcast, I've had him on mine a couple of times, and he's He's helped elevate my podcast because of his input. But you can find me at Sales Untraining. Yes, Google Sales Untraining. You can find it on your favorite platform. Also, my website, Biz Locker Room, the name of my company, Paul, Business Locker Room, because I think business is like sports. It's a competition, and second place doesn't get paid, at least not in my experience. So it's in our best interest to learn to compete at a high level. BizLockerRoom.com.
All right. Sales Untraining with Kelly Riggs and BizLockerRoom.com. And I also know you do some fair amount of posting on LinkedIn and other platforms. So make sure you're following him there. As always, Kelly, I am much better when I'm talking to you. So I really, really appreciated this chance to get together. And everybody that's listening, keep shining bright. Have an absolutely amazing day. And we'll talk to you soon.